Hi, thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Jessie Peterson. I am the Director of Education here at SunRay Construction Solutions. SunRay secures $10 billion annually for GCs, subs, and suppliers. We are a national construction document service. Today's webinar is conducted by the incredible Alex Barthet, a Florida construction lien law expert. Today's webinar topic is My Lien Was Bonded Off. Now what? How do I get paid? So without further ado, I would like to introduce the fabulous Alex Barthet.
Thanks, Jesse. Again, my name is Alex Barthet. I am a board certified construction attorney here in Florida. And we're going to talk about what happens when someone tells you that they're bonding off your lien. What do you do? And most importantly, how do you get paid? So let's get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can use the GoToWebinar chat box, which is on your screen. We'll answer all the questions at the end. Please make sure not to include the names of any people or companies in your questions. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk first about some basics. What is a lien and how does it work? Because you need to understand that in order to understand why bonding off a lien even exists. We'll talk about what it actually means when someone bonds off your lien. And then once your lien is bonded off, we're going to talk about what to do. And then, as I said, we will answer any questions at the end. So let's talk about what a lien is and how it works so you better understand why bonding off a lien exists. So as you know, a mechanics lien, a construction lien, secures your payment for the materials that you furnish and services that you render to the project. Once you follow the lien law, you have to, and then you put a lien on the property. That lien encumbers the property. Now that property may be a lease, so sometimes your lien encumbers the lease. So for tenant build-outs, for example, is a good example. Or it encumbers the entire property. And it's equal, your lien is equal to the value of the materials and services that you provided to the project that constituted improvements. Once you lien the property, you now put the world on notice, because the lien is a publicly recorded document. You put the world on notice that you are claiming an interest in that property up to the value of your lien. And through a legal process known as foreclosure, which is a legal process just like any others, except at the end of the case, if you prevail, that property will be sold at auction to satisfy your lien, and you are entitled to any equity that will be paid out of the sale to be paid to you. Now, we're going to get back to this equity concept because it's very important, and equity is the reason why you should be very happy when someone bonds off your lien. So let's go through the basics so everyone is on the same page about what you need to do to record a lien, because bonding off a lien means nothing if you don't have a lien, and you can't have a lien unless you follow all of the steps required under Florida law to record a lien. So if you do not have a direct contract with the owner, then you need to serve what's called a notice to owner, and that needs to be served, effectively received, no later than 45 calendar days from your first work or delivery of materials to the project. You can serve it sooner. You can't serve it before you have a contract, but from the time you have a contract to no later than 45 days from when you start rendering services or delivering materials, that owner needs to receive that notice to owner document. Next, within 90 days of your last work or delivery of materials, you need to record the claim of lien on the project. A copy of that lien needs to be served on all interested parties, namely the owner, within 15 days of recording. And if you do happen to have a contract with the owner, there's another document you need to serve, and that's called a contractor's final affidavit. And that has to be served no later than 5 days before you file suit to foreclose on the lien, we recommend that if you are required to serve this document, that you prepare it and serve it at the same time that you serve your claim of lien. Again, the claim of lien is recorded in the public record and served. The contractor's final affidavit is only served. It is not recorded. And if you do not have a direct contract with the owner, you do not need to serve this contractor's final affidavit. So for example, if you are the plumber and your contract is with the GC, you don't need to serve a contractor's final affidavit. But if you're the plumber and your contract is with the owner, when you lien, you also need to serve this contractor's final affidavit. And then the last date to remember is that you need to file your lawsuit to foreclose on that claim of lien within 1 year of the recording date of the claim of lien. This date can be shortened, but that's the outside deadline. All of these dates, by the way, are the outside deadlines. Now, we have a tool called the Calc-U-Lien. If you go to Calc-U-Lien.com, you can request yours. This is a handy free desk tool that helps you calculate the 45 days from first work and 90 days from last work. So you no longer have to count on your fingers. And remember, 90 days is not 3 months. So if you're counting your lien like June 2nd, July 2nd, August 2nd, you're going to miss some days because some months have more than 30 days and some months have fewer than 30 days. So feel free to go to Calc-U-Lien.com and request your free Calc-U-Lien. We'll put it in the mail and send it to you within a few days. Okay, so what does bonding off your lien actually mean? Well, remember I told you that the lien is an encumbrance on the property. It is a cloud on the title. It will prevent someone from selling the property or refinancing the property if your lien is there. But sometimes owners, contractors, and even subcontractors have a legal or contractual obligation to keep the property free and clear of liens. So some examples. If I'm an owner and I have a lender on the job, that loan document says that I, under no circumstances, can allow any liens to be recorded on the property. If the lender finds out, they could hold me in default. So in order to keep the peace with my lender, I may need to bond off your lien. Now, bonding off your lien is not paying you. It's taking the lien, which is now secured by the property, and moving it to be secured by a financial instrument. We'll talk about that in a little bit, of what exactly that means. Other examples, a landlord, right? So if I'm a tenant, let's say I'm a shoe store in a mall, and I've paid a contractor to do work, and that contractor or maybe one of their subcontractors didn't get paid and they record a lien on the property, my landlord under my lease is going to say I can't have any liens on the property, even though that lien may only attach to my leasehold interest in the property. So they may say, no, that's not going to cut it. You need to bond off the lien. And sometimes we see in prime contracts, subcontracts, and sub-subcontracts, obligations placed on those parties that if any of their lower tier material suppliers or vendors or subcontractors, if they record a lien, that lien needs to be bonded off. So these are some examples where someone may be obligated to bond off a lien. Now, the lien transfer bond or bonding off a lien is different from a payment and performance bond, which you may be aware of, which a contractor will obtain at the commencement of a project and record at the time the project starts and reference it in the notice of commencement. When you use SunRay, SunRay does the research and determines, oh, look, this contractor on this project has a bond. So therefore, we're gonna, if we need to make a claim, we're not gonna make a claim on the project, a claim of lien, we're gonna serve a claim on the bond, also known as a notice of non-payment. So just know that bonding off a lien is different than a contractor issued payment and performance bond, even though you may run into a situation where the contractor, him or herself, is the one that's bonding off your lien. So There is a complex formula in the lien statute where the lien amount is used plus 150% of the lien amount to determine the bond amount. So if someone liens a project for $100,000 and they want to bond off that lien, or someone wants to bond off their lien, again, it's not exactly 150%, but it works out to be about 150% of the lien amount. So for them to get a bond, they need to get a bond equal to 150% of the lien amount. So if we go to my example, it's a $100,000 lien, they're going to have to post a bond of $150,000 to get that lien off the property and onto the bond. That extra 50% under the lien statute is intended to cover anticipated legal fees, court costs, and interests. To the extent that you prevail on your lien, there's not only the lien amount, but there's an extra amount. Now, the bond that is used to transfer the lien from the property to the bond can be one of two types of bonds. One is a cash bond. So if we go back to my example, let's say I'm an owner, someone puts a $100,000 lien on my property, and to keep the lender happy, I need to keep I need to get the lien off the property. So what am I going to do? I can take $150,000 cash to the clerk of court, and the clerk of court will accept that, deposit it in a bank, and issue a certificate of transfer. And if I look at that certificate of transfer, it's going to say that the bond is cash. Again, because I brought cash to the clerk's office. The other way to bond off a lien is to use a surety bond, from an insurance company, Hartford, CNA, Liberty Mutual, Travelers. Any of those companies will issue transfer bonds. And again, the dollar amount of the bond is the same. It's about 150%. So going back to my example, I as the owner, I need to bond off this $100,000 lien. I can go to a bonding agent. I can fill out a form. I can be approved. I'm going to pay a premium, an insurance premium. Usually it's between 1% and 3%. And they will issue a bond for $150,000. So it's a security instrument. They will generate this bond. I will then take the original bond to the clerk's office, and the clerk will hold that bond because it's a negotiable instrument. It's like a check. So they're going to hold it for good until the matter is resolved. And then they will issue a certificate of transfer. And that certificate of transfer is going to say that your lien has been bonded off onto a bond issued by the Hartford in the amount of $150,000. That's what that certificate of transfer is going to say. So if your lien was bonded off, now what? I think you should celebrate, and let me explain why. Your lien is now backed by cash instead of the property, which could have other claims on it. So let's take an example of why a cash bond or a surety bond is better than foreclosing on a piece of property. Let's go back to my example of a $100,000 lien. Let's say I am the plumber. I'm doing work on a project. I haven't been paid. I'm owed $100,000. I record a lien on this piece of property. Well, it turns out that this property is worth $1 million. That's great. But in front of me is a construction loan or a purchase money loan for $950,000. So let me think. I've got a property that's worth $1 million. I've got my lien, which is 100, but sitting in front of me with priority is a lender that is owed $950,000. So let's walk through what will happen. Let's assume that I foreclose on my lien and I prevail. So what's going to happen? We're going to go to a foreclosure sale. Used to be in person at the courthouse. Now it's all online via auction. And other people around the world get to bid on this property. I'm going to be the first bidder because I have a lien, I have a judgment for my lien. Let's just make the math simple. Let's say it's $100,000. I'm going to bid up $100,000 because I'm going to put my lien automatically. I'm going to put my judgment amount, my foreclosure lien amount in as the first bid. So now what do I need to have someone do? I need to have someone else anywhere in the world show up and be willing to pay $101,000. By paying $101,000, let's assume that that were to happen. They now put in that bid for $101,000. They win. They go to the clerk and bring $101,000. Now the clerk is going to take $100,000 of that and give it to me. So I get my cash out because someone bid more than my lien judgment amount. But if we go back to my actual example, we have a lien of 100 and we have a mortgage of 950. People that bid on foreclosure sales are not stupid. They know that there's really no equity in this property. If they bid $101,000, then they're still underwater because they got to deal with a lender who still has their lien on the property. So no one is likely going to bid. So what does that mean? That means no one else shows up to bid. My bid is in for 100,000 because that's the lien amount. It doesn't cost me 100,000. That's just because I have the judgment for that amount. And now I own the property. Great. So the owner of the property is no longer the owner. I am now the owner. But what's going to happen? A few things. One, I got to insure it. I got to safeguard the property because it's my property now. So if something happens on the property, it's my responsibility. But I don't have the loan with the lender, and the owner who did, he's not paying the lender anymore. He doesn't own the property. So he stops paying. So now the lender files a foreclosure action to foreclose out who? Me. He's going to foreclose me out of this mortgage, out of the ownership interest I now have in the property. So I've gone through this whole process only to find myself in a position where the lender, who has a first priority, is going to foreclose me out. So I've done all this work, and now I'm going to lose the property to the lender. So you need to understand that as background as to why when someone is willing to bond off your lien, you should be happy. Because now, if I go through the foreclosure process and my lien has been bonded off and I win, I don't have to worry about any equity in the property. I get cash because the owner either brought cash to the clerk. So if I win my case, I take my judgment to the clerk, and the clerk is going to go to the bank and cut me a check for the amount of my judgment out of the cash bond. If I have a surety bond that's backing my lien because it's been bonded off with a surety bond, then I get a judgment, and now I can take that judgment and I can go to Hartford or Liberty or CNA and say, hey, I have a judgment for this lien amount on your bond, and they will write you a check. So having a lien bonded off is generally a good thing because then, as I said, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about equity in the property prohibiting or not enough equity in the property limiting your ability to actually recover. Other things to keep in mind, you need to get ready to fight. And the reason I say that is because someone who is willing to go through the time, effort, and expense to bond off your lien rather than just pick up the phone and call you and work something out means that they don't want to pay you. So when clients come to us and they say, hey, we recorded this lien, it's been bonded off, our first piece of advice is let's file a lawsuit. If they wanted to settle, they would have settled with you. They would have called you and worked it out. The fact that they've bonded it off means they don't want to pay you. Don't delay in retaining legal counsel to start the process. Don't wait till the end of the last possible month or weeks to file the lawsuit. Again, if someone is bonding off your lien, our advice is to file a lawsuit immediately when that lien is bonded off. Just know that the date to file your lawsuit can be shortened. We have done other presentations on this topic on how your lien can be shortened. If you go to the SunRay website or the Lien Zone YouTube channel, you will find our videos on ways that the time period to sue can be shortened down from 1 year to 60 days or 1 year down to 20 days. So just be aware that it's not always 1 year, it may be less than that. So with that, Jesse, do we have any questions?
As of right now, there are no questions, but thank you so much, Alex, for that awesome presentation. That was wonderful. All right, if you guys could take a moment to review us on Google, we would really appreciate that. There you go. All right, so our next webinar with Alex is a subcontractor step-by-step guide to getting paid faster. That's going to be on December 6th at 9 a.m. And so go ahead and register for free at sunraynotice.com/education. And that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for everyone that attended. We hope to see you guys at our next webinar. Again, thank you, Alex, and I hope you all have a sunny day.
Thanks, Jesse.